Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build with ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt. Yeah.
And we're back.
We're back. Episode 12. I always forget to look it up every time. I
was going to ask you before you hit record if you looked, but
no, I didn't. I think it's episode 12 or 13.
It's one
Probably
of those.
12.
It's okay. It's fine.
Something like that. Anyways, welcome back, everybody. We are super excited. Another episode that we have been asked about is everybody wanting to know different brands and different block companies. That seems to be the big request by everybody. So we have another block company on with us today. Probably one of the most OG guys in the industry as far as the original gangster of ICF. We have Paul Camozzi with us from Amvic Building System. And he is newly Allegaurd, I guess we should say too. Brand that is Allegaurd and Amvic Building System. But Paul, I've known Paul a long, long time. And this guy has all the knowledge in that head of his that is, we could make this a 4-hour episode if we wanted to. So we're going to try to keep this to a 30 or 40 minute episode. But thanks for being on with us, Paul. We appreciate you taking the time today.
My pleasure. It's great to see you too. I appreciate what you're doing for the industry.
No, it's fun. I keep telling everybody I'm super stoked about how it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. We're getting a lot of feedback from people, and we really enjoy all the messages and DMs and stuff we're getting, and people keep doing it, and we'll keep bringing more episodes out. So we're getting a few of them in here before we head off to IBS this week, and we're
the International Builder Show, not irritable bowel syndrome.
Right, very different.
Very different.
You want to make sure that I know that. So we'll be down there we're not going to do any recording like we did at the World of Concrete, but we'll definitely be down there and making some contacts and stuff and getting some other guests lined up. So, Paul, if you want to go back, I love that. So here's what I love. You were the first salesman hired at Amvic. We laugh because as someone who was a past territory manager at Amvic, we all laughed that every territory was your territory at one point in time. So we always go, what territory? Well, all of it. It was all Paul's at one point. The whole world was Paul's territory. So you've seen something that I think a lot of people just the growth of ICF and stuff going back to, how you got started in it. But let's go back a little bit further because I know you didn't start. Where were you before the ICF industry? Explain how you met Victor and how you got rolling.
Well, actually, it's kind of ironic. I spent 6 years in structural steel. I used to be a quality control inspector in a steel mill. Obviously, we use a lot of rebar with ICF. And then from there, I moved to environmental consulting. And that's really been my passion in life is in the environment. And I just found out about this particular product because I also like to build. And I built a couple of custom homes in my day. And I was one of these newbies. And I found this product called ICF. And I built a custom home with it. This was before Amvic and Allegaurd came on the scene. So once I did that, I really said, wow, this stuff works. And shortly after that, I was asked by Dr. Victor Amen, the founder of Amvic, to come in and have an interview with him. And that's how it all started. And when I walked in that door, Trevor, it was a brand new facility with brand new equipment from Germany. We were ICFs to the roof line. The owner was having trouble speaking English at the time. He hired me through an interpreter. And I asked him, who would look after marketing? And his response was, you. And who would look after sales? And his response was, you. So I was like, whoa, okay. So we've got a full slate here. But what happened was, a lot of people don't know this, but about 8 out of 10 of the phone calls came in, and they came in from your great country of the United States. And I got pulled into the American market. So I've always worked basically for the last 24 years in the United States. I met some great people from Montana to California to Florida, the Carolinas, New York. It's really been quite a journey. So that's basically how it all got started.
What year was it? Do you remember what year exactly it was that you took the job originally when you interviewed with Victor?
Yeah, it was just at the end of 1999.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And you look back at it and it's like, seems like such a long time, but we've all of us that have been in it, from back in those days. It's like, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but then it's just ramping up now. It's been such a slow grow and to see it from the beginning, like you said, just all of a sudden, I tell people all the time, like, man, we used to get excited if we could sell 15 truckloads in a year, and now it's like you have a week that you can sell 15 truckloads in a week. It's just crazy. So you've gone back from going from covering California out of Toronto and back to where where this was all started was in Toronto, Canada. And so covering all the way down to California and covering all these different areas and stuff. You've seen it move back to where you're handling mostly East Coast stuff and consulting on the larger projects now, correct?
Yeah, I consult on I've kind of held all the titles, but my true love is actually working and helping people with this product. I've built 2 ICF homes now. I'm speaking to you today from my second ICF home, which I physically built. But I love being that, if you like, and I've helped a lot of people to get engaged in this industry, from commercial to residential to institutional. And so that's really, I guess I got a little bit of my mother in me because she was a teacher. So that's kind of been my passion. And right now I'm focusing primarily in Florida and in the Southeast. And I've got some really interesting stuff coming up, which I'll be able to share with you maybe the next time we have a chat.
Well, and just kind of brushed on that. We talked before we started recording a little bit that, we're seeing this because we do, I've written articles for ICF Builder magazine. And one of them I wrote was about resilient homes and just the demand that we have for resiliency in homes. And we talked a little bit about that, whether it be the fires in California or the, tornadoes in the Midwest to the hurricanes in Florida. And you were saying that you're seeing that becoming more of a driving factor for the ICF industry right now. That's really why Florida's so big, right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. This word resilience has always been one of my lecture topics. And, we look at a lot of the different building technologies or programs that have come in, and many, many of them have not talked about that word resilience. And obviously, if we're building reinforced concrete home that's insulated, we can really take what Mother Nature has to give us. But I've physically been on the shores of New Orleans after Katrina. I've physically been on the shores of Mexico Beach after Andrew. I've physically been on the shores of New Jersey after Sandy. And we have literally landfilled like football fields of wood, basically, after these severe storms. And after the last 2 rounds of hurricanes in Florida, I think I don't have to sell ICFs anymore. It's basically, how do we get engaged and how do we build with it? And I think the bigger thing now, which is coming out loud and clear, Trevor, is the insurance industry now is either not even offering insurance, or when they do offer insurance, it's astronomically high. So the best way to get around that, there's a couple of programs out now called extreme construction methodologies, and that's to get yourself down to building so that you can actually get your home insured, and you can get the home insured at a very reasonable rate. But we do have a lot of things going on as a result of what's been going on in the world of climate change.
Well, and Paul, real quick before we jump into the questions that we ask all of our guests, what are some of the Amvic products or Allegaurd products that you're seeing the most use of in those areas?
Sure. Be happy to talk about that. All of our products that were initially on the ICF side were designed by Dr. Victor Amend. And what really sets us apart is a PhD structural engineer, is a brilliant man. So he was the past owner of our company. And what I liked about him is he did all the math. In other words, he built structures and products that he knew could withstand the forces of concrete. And we really kind of raised the bar on that. But one of his products, which I believe I'm the largest mover of in the company, is our floor and roof system called Amdeck Pro. And again, Victor's genius, he won awards for that when he launched it a number of years ago, not on the fact that we were using EPS to form concrete, but the fact that he was dramatically reducing shoring. And that's critical. So when you're doing suspended concrete work, we have a lot of shoring required. And Victor found a way to reduce that by almost 75%. So, but in Florida now, in the South, people are now looking at complete concrete shells. So that's what's going to take to withstand these severe winds. A lot of people don't realize this in the United States, that if you do get a severe storm in the South, if the roof is compromised, it's 100% claim. You have so much water that follows that storm. And in the South, with hot humidity, mold starts to propagate within 24 hours. So the biggest thing now is, how do we put a lid on that and make sure that you have a very, very resilient structure that can really take a hit?
Well, and to explain to people that maybe are not familiar with how an Amdeck system or concrete roof system works, that it's an overpour that goes in and connects to and combines or monolithically connects to the actual wall itself. So you're not just we've seen them use different types of hollow core, precast hollow cores and stuff like that, where they set them on the walls, right? And and they do a good job of attaching them and stuff. Not to say they don't. That's obviously way better than a wood roof. But with the system that with the Amdeck Pro and with the Amdeck ecosystem, basically everything runs off. You pour your slab, it pours into the wall, connects to that wall, which makes this encapsulating envelope that is going to hold everything out. So it's
basically
huge.
You created a concrete box, Trevor,
right?
And we'll mechanically tie it. So when we have verticals coming up we're going to pour those walls first. Where we create concrete beams with the Amdeck Pro system, we'll bend rebar into those beams, and then we'll flood the Amdeck. So now we've monolithically physically attached the roof or floor to the walls. So it's very, very, very substantial.
Yeah, I think that's a biggest system, or the biggest reason that people don't, they get a little intimidated by that. And I think that's one of the things that I've talked to people, and they go, well, that's a whole different system to try to attach into the walls and different things like that. Everybody does, they're a little intimidated by it. And the one thing I would say is, the more I've watched it happen, and we actually did a parade home down in St. George, Utah, that turned out really, really good, really good. But it was way easier than people give it credit. If you can do flat work, it's kind of basically doing flat work. And it's interesting, we have another guest that I've lined up that we're going to be interviewing this afternoon that makes a system called Quick Header. And they basically are header systems for CMU buildings and stuff. But we've started talking to them about doing bracing for the concrete roof and flooring systems, because it's become so popular. So we're seeing more and more of that, where the other really interesting fact that we're seeing with the concrete roofs is people wanting, everyone knows we're building on tighter spaces. And so you're in a lot tighter area where you may not have as much backyard. You may, the houses are closer together, different things. You put that on your roof. Now you have living space that you can utilize as a patio or a roof. And that parade home we did actually had a hot tub on the roof, because it had an Amdeck roof on it, and they were able to put things up there. They had a patio set up there and stuff. So it just gives you some more living space too on a smaller footprint. So there's a lot of benefits to that.
And in Florida too, everybody wants a view of the ocean. So
Exactly.
If I can elevate the house and put a patio on top of my house. So we did a home very similar to that in a place called Marsh Landing. That's where Dorian struck. And the whole peninsula was completely level. And there's our 2-story. It wasn't an overly big home, about 2,600 square feet, but we had Amdeck floor and an Amdeck roof. We had some vinyl siding torn off one side. Everything else around it was gone. And so a huge, huge testament to the strength of that when you're working. But for me, your weakest link is always going to be that roof. And so let's address that, because if the roof is compromised, it's not a good thing. So case in point, I was just talking to a gentleman this morning, Trevor. I helped him build a home in South Carolina, a place called Hilton Head, and it's 3-story structure. And so first 2 floors, Amdeck Pro, but on he wanted to put a traditional roof on it. And I said, if it was me, I'm not telling you how to spend your money, but I would probably put that Amvic Pro on the top, and you can go back to hanging a traditional wood floor. So he took that to heart, and he put a third level on. So now he has a proverbial 3-story concrete box, and then he put a traditional roof on top of that, like a low profile, more architectural.
Oh, okay.
Oriented.
Yeah, that's
But if
interesting.
the wind comes along and tears that roof off, his house is not compromised at all. And that's what he was. That's what he wanted. He did not want to have a situation where he was getting. I don't think people realize just how much water comes down in these storms. And these people have valuable things in their homes. They want them protected. So I think that message is getting out there loud and clear now.
That firmly falls under something I've said on this podcast multiple times, which is you can be in this business for over 20 years and still learn something new. That's a great idea. I can't believe we haven't really thought of that, because we out west here, the one thing is flat roof is just not acceptable in a lot of places. I mean, there's an occasional use for it here, but it's something that is just not popular. I mean, no matter how you look at it. So you could actually box your house in like that, create that solid envelope of concrete, and then just stick frame the roof. If you lost the roof, whether that be through fire or wind, anything else, you're just replacing the roof. You can, that's a lot cheaper than losing everything in the house. So that's a really interesting concept.
Well, it's getting really wild in Florida, because now if you want to upgrade your insurance in Florida and you have a traditional wood roof, what they're looking at doing now is they're saying, okay, we'll insure you, but we want you to take that roof off and build a new roof with much more significant ties.
Yeah.
So really, this is where it's kind of all going. The rub is if you just get in a kayak and paddle over to the Bahamas or the Caribbean, and you start talking in the way we're having this discussion today, they're like, well, when can you start, Paul? There's no selling whatsoever. They learned a long time ago, you need to build with concrete and make it a much more substantial.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it fun.
All right. Should we get into the questions, or did you have another question?
I did one other product that I think is a real good mover for you guys that people have seen and we'll see at different shows and stuff, is the PEX panel. The PEX panels are really, really getting popular. We're getting more, we talk about concrete roofs and concrete floors and different things. Radiant systems and radiant heat systems is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. If you're going to the trouble, to build an ICF house, it's probably the best way you can heat the house. We're sitting, as we sit right now, just like Paul, we're sitting in an ICF house that we built, and we have no HVAC system in this house. We have just radiant floor systems. We keep the system at about 55 to 58, and it keeps the house at about 65. So, we used PEX panel under that. Maybe you tell us a little bit about how you've obviously been there and saw that it start.
Well, it's interesting because your podcast basically is about why build with ICF. In the very early years when we did trade shows, the gentleman that educated me on ICF before Victor Amen, he did a lot of homes with hydronic heating, and we would actually do a little display in our booth, and all we did was had a little electric heater in it, just a piece of concrete, and we'd have people through that whole trade show come up and go, "Oh, feel how warm the floors will be." So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper here. I'll be really quick. I know we have some time, but a building science man explained this to me many years ago. The ultimate level of comfort in a house is 140. And you're going to go, what the heck is Paul talking about? What that means is your surface temperatures are 70 degrees and your ambient air temperature is 70 degrees. When you can reach that in a house, you get ultimate comfort. So there's no more blankets on couches when you get that draft from losing your body temperature through convection to cold surfaces. And so I'm a big fan of radiant heating. And for some reason, I think maybe that's one of the big ones. People may not understand why, but there's always been a really nice marriage with hydronic heating and ICF. It's been going on for a long time. So our panel is a 2-foot by 4-foot panel. Again, to Dr. Victor Amen's credit, he looked at all the other panels on the market and came up, which I could definitely believe is the best one. And what I like about it's got really tall towers. So when you snap the PEX in play, it stays in play. It doesn't pop up when you're actually the flat work guys are pouring your slab. That's because they don't care about the PEX tubing. They just want to make sure they can get the slab done. So the last thing you want to do is get that PEX tubing damaged, or, where you could possibly have leaks. So I really liked that product. And it was an interesting story. It was a big investment to start making that product. And the first 7 months, the owner was very upset because just wasn't moving, because traditionals were still looking at just stapling PEX to or tying PEX to wire mesh, which really, if you think about it, makes no sense at all.
Right.
But once we got traction, in other words, once people used it once, they never went back. And so it's a big SKU item for our company. Complements the ICF very nicely.
Yeah, we'd love to use it. I mean, we'd legitimately laid it down ourselves and walked the pipe in, with your feet, and it snaps right in. It's just amazing, and gives you that, R10 insulator underneath. And I mean, it's kind of an all-in-one product. I think it's just something that really, just makes it, it's that thing where if you're going to make this house the best you can, why not take it, do everything? And that's where I think the Radiant comes in.
Well, and I think it, just, speaking from experience with us putting it in our own home, the time savings of being able to walk and just snap it into place versus having to set down the wire mesh and tie it to the wire mesh and then it popping up. I mean, it saves so much time. So labor, you're saving that labor cost.
It's huge.
So
the big thing for me, Heather, is, and I've learned this lesson the hard way, it makes me want to build another home, because Victor didn't have that panel at the time. So
Yeah.
I had to go back to traditional. My plumber did. And I'm reminded of that every time I get out of bed in the morning, because I put my feet down on a cold spot in the floor. Because with the panels, this, the PEX tubing is very, very rigidly held in a particular pattern.
Yeah.
mhm.
For maximum efficiency and comfort. But if you're just freehanding it, like my plumber did, you run into these issues of parts of the floors are getting warm and other parts are not. So again, I can't say enough about that panel. It's been a really good complement to the ICF.
Yeah. And the continuous insulation included in that panel
Yeah.
is part of that.
Yeah.
That helps keep the floors warm. I know I get up, I love the floors. We have snow right now, and our neighbor's dog will come over, and she knows where the water lines come in through the house to go to the remote manifold. And so it usually, it's warm right there all the time, even when, if it's not calling for heat everywhere. She'll go find that spot, be covered in snow, lay down right in that spot, and 5 minutes later she's thawed out.
All
And
dry. Yeah. People come in and they're like, "Oh, do we need to take our shoes off? I got snow on my feet." And we're like, "Nah, it'll melt here in just a few minutes anyway." So come in, they're like, "Oh, I'm getting snow on your floor." It'll be gone in a couple minutes anyways. It's all good. But
you're good.
all right, let's roll into some questions.
All right. So I know you've already talked about a few of these, but you have so many stories, Paul, and so much knowledge. So I want to ask one more, a memorable experience that you've had in your ICF career.
Wow, that's a difficult question.
I know, 'cause you have so
weed
many.
that one down. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
How much time you got? No.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of I guess probably the most exciting time very early on in my career is I was doing entire subdivisions in South Carolina. And I got to tell you, there isn't a better feeling when you're walking down a street and all you see is ICF homes going up from various stages. And we actually did 2 or 3 subdivisions there. It was really a home run. And we started in 2002 and we were building right through to 2007. And we were going to continue that way. And then very, very unfortunately, the subprime hit the American economy and everything went back to building as at least expensive as possible. But that moment there just proved to me that it could be done, and it could be done very efficiently. And all it took was three guys with 2 crews each, 2 guys with 2 crews each. And we approached all the regular track home builders in that particular city. And we were doing ICF shells for 5 years. I'm waiting to see that come back again. I think I can see that happening in Florida, but this is definitely doable. And of course, when you work at that level, you have efficiencies. And when the efficiencies start to roll in, it really makes no sense to build any other way, particularly in coastal areas or any areas now. I think like global warming, climate change is affecting everything now. It's funny, when I started in the industry, everyone would always say to me, this would be a great product for Tornado Alley, or this would be a great product for the hurricanes in Florida. Well, you guys are in, not Utah, you're
Idaho.
in South Dakota?
Idaho.
Sorry,
Idaho,
you're
yep.
in Idaho. It's a great product for Idaho. It's a great product. We've built with this product in Alaska. We built with this product in, as I said, in the Caribbean. It's a great product everywhere.
Yeah.
But it really holds up. I guess the other big one was I had a 5-story apartment complex also in the South. And that was really interesting with that one. And when the gentleman called me, he had some very kind of deep questions. And I asked him point blank, is there any chance you're a developer or a commercial builder? He said, yes, I am. I said, okay. I said, well, how can I help you? And he said, well, I want to try this stuff first. Very hands-on guy. And so we sold him a truckload of forms, and he put a big addition onto his home. He could not get over the fact with that addition that this was a traditional, well-built, stick-built home, the original part of the house, but he could not get over the fact that on the ICF addition, which was substantial, that his AC units very seldom ever even kicked on. Maybe kicked on about 5 o'clock in the morning. To that point, whenever I visited with him, we would have a coffee in one area, and he did it intentionally because he wanted to prove to me that the AC kept kicking on the wood side of the house, but it didn't on his ICF side of the house. But he took that knowledge then and then went on to build 5 apartment buildings in a whole recreational complex. And that was a big highlight of my career. We did a huge tour there with the National Ready Mix Concrete Association, a supporter of our industry. And I think also, too, there's some really new, exciting news, Heather. We just, through the ICF MA, the ICF Manufacturers Association, and in conjunction with the NRMCA, you have to recognize these folks really helped us along. We now have the NFPA 285 approved, which we'll all be getting information on that. So that basically allows us to start doing a lot more multi-story commercial ICF structures because we've addressed this issue of flame spread.
Yeah.
So that's a really exciting, I think, step forward for our industry, and it moves us much more into much bigger and more, I guess, exposed ICF construction on the commercial front.
Well, and then I guess that kind of plays into this other, question, why Amvic or Allegaurd ICF? Why should people use Amvic ICF?
And tell us a little bit. I'm going to preface that a little bit. We talked about, but a little what differentiates. We're going to say that Paul is a nice guy, and he knows that everybody loves ICF. We love all the ICF companies. I do want you to specifically tell us a few things that are different about Amvic, so our listeners know, what they're looking at differently and what to look at when they look at an Amvic lock versus something else.
It's actually a pretty big story now. We've gone from 3 factories to over 16. We're now a much larger entity. Now our new company is called Allegaurd, but we're empowered by Amvic. We have 2 complete floor and roof systems that we were talking about a few minutes ago. We have 2 complete lines of R22 forms, which is basically standard in the industry. And the other one is my favorite, is the R30 form. On the R30 form, Amvic is known for its interlock. We have a very intricate patented interlock. They don't physically lock together because a lot of times when you're building, you still have to pull things apart and redo. We didn't want to go down that route, but we have a very intricate interlock. And on that R30 form, I have more interlock than I do actual concrete core width. So anyone who's a seasoned ICF installer, and we've attracted those people, once they use that form, they just don't go back. And it gets you to basically passive home design. But I think probably the number one reason all these years with Amvic is had a huge respect for the owner, because he developed all these products himself, and he stood on his own 2 feet. But I like the engineering component. So if you go back to that roof system, I'm doing homes now where with a little bit of tweaking, we hardly need any shoring in that house because we'll do some interior ICF walls. But again, to his credit, and to actually offset the forming requirement on the edge of that Amdeck Pro, well, again, using his smarts. Last time I checked, 12 inches plus 4 inches is 16. Our ICF panels are 16 inches tall. So now I can cut those panels in half, and I can do a perimeter form. Again, all using ICF. What that means is there's no thermal bridging. And again, just it takes a very smart individual to figure all that stuff out. And that's been a pleasure.
Well, shout out to Victor, and I agree with you. I've got to know Victor very well over the years, and I still get to stay in contact with him. I was emailing with him the other day, and just an amazing brain on that guy, and just something that's a real innovator in the industry, and it's definitely shows in his product. That's for sure.
Yep.
Well, a lot of people may not realize, Trevor, is that when he came over from Europe, not only did he design his own ICF lines and continue to improve upon them and add new additions, he taught himself how to foam mold. Many of our competitors have gone to actual individual molders to make their product, where Victor built himself a brand new factory. He outfitted it with the best equipment and taught himself how to mold ICFs, which is not an easy thing to do on the EPS side because we have to be dimensionally accurate, et cetera, et cetera. So it really was just starting completely from scratch and building what we have today. And now Allegaurd is taking that to the next level of getting out there as a complete solution for your EPS needs throughout United States.
Yeah, absolutely. So our final question is for you is especially this means so much more coming from someone that's got the years of experience that you do. And when you're looking at where we came from and where we're going to, what is what are you excited about? And this doesn't have to be specifically a product. It could be just a trend in our industry, a trend in the building industry. What are you excited about in the future that really is going to help with the ICF industry and put, what we got going on here coming up?
Oh, that's a good question. What I'm excited about is that when I mention ICF to people now, many people actually know what it is now. For many years, it was like, what is this stuff? And I think with some of these advances we've had now in code approvals, there's less reluctancy to get engaged in it, which means the design and engineering industries are going to be a lot more receptive to it as well, because we do need the professionals to get more on board with this. This is not a difficult product to work with. We follow ACI 318 and how we place rebar in concrete. Nothing has changed, but there's no denying the absolute comfort and features that you get with an ICF shell, like long-term performance features. The EPS, Trevor, you may not know, has no R value deterioration over time compared to our flat sheets that are on the market today, your extruded boards. So, we're basically putting, my real go to sleep well is I'm very comfortable putting people in these homes knowing that they're going to be around for hundreds of years. They're going to be safe. Their family and their valuables are going to be protected.
I think that's so well said, because I think that's, when you really get into the why we do it kind of thing, I think a lot of us do it because we know we're promoting the best product in the market, right? That's why we're doing a podcast about ICF. This is why we're letting people know about the industry, is because we all go to sleep at night knowing that we're promoting a product that gives people a safer, more comfortable home. And I think that's what we get. That's what gives us the warm and fuzzy feeling about this industry. So that's very well stated. We're going to wrap this thing up here, but I can't tell you how much I respect you, Paul. I thank you for all the information you've given me over the years. It's been amazing to me to learn from you in so many different ways. And like I said, we could probably this will not be your last podcast with us, because there's about 10 different subjects we could have you on to talk about for 30 minutes, and we will. So I want to thank you for your time today. And I did want to just let everybody know that we got the International Builder Show coming up. Allegaurd is going to have their booth there, with their Amvic building system, ICF system in there. They're going to be in Central Hall in C2054. I'll put it in the podcast notes, so if anyone wants to come and check it out. Paul's going to be in Florida, where it's actually warmer than in Las Vegas.
He's going to be working too, though.
He's
not just-
smarter. He's smarter. He's like, I'll take the Florida beaches over the Las Vegas desert. But no, we're going to miss you at IBS, but we will have a bunch of the guys from Allegaurd there. So make sure to get around and go talk to everybody at the IBS or the International Builder Show. And then too, congratulations on you guys. We were at the World of Concrete, and you guys got on the stage a few times for your projects with the ICF Builder Award. So congratulations on that. I know you guys did well.
We had a great night. It was awesome. A lot of first place wins, and I've always enjoyed that. Because it basically lets my customers, because change is a huge task. It always takes someone a little bit more courageous to step ahead of the group. It's one of the reasons why I stayed working in the United States, because I met so many Americans after I gave a presentation on training or whatever. They would say, you know what, Paul, we're going to try this. And so I encourage people to try it and get out there and actually look at the products and understand what help you need. We are in the concrete forming business. We're not in the Lego stacking business. So we need to understand the medium that we're using. But the end result is absolutely fantastic. What's neat for me, Trevor, is over the years, I get people calling me, and now they're calling me maybe after 15 years in their ICF home. And they're calling me because they're going to build another one now for their children.
Wow.
And I will always use that opportunity to ask them, if there's one thing you could tell me about your ICF home, what is it? And I always challenge people on this question, but it never fails. So what do you think what do you think the answer is that would come back, Trevor and Heather?
Oh my gosh. On ours, I just think of like all the savings that we have, like how comfortable our home is all the time.
Yeah. I think it'd be,
Whoa.
if you lived in one,
I know where the brains are in this operation. It's comfort.
Yeah.
Now, comfort's both tangible and intangible. I'm comfortable, just comfort. I have consistent air temperatures on my house, but I'm also super comfortable knowing we've got a really bad storm coming, and I'm comfortable knowing my possessions and family are safe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's absolutely that word, comfort.
Agreed.
I will get people saying something like, well, Paul, my significant other and I, we talk about this all the time, and we have to admit, we've never felt so comfortable in our house. So I encourage you all to help me sell that word comfort. And Heather and Trevor, thank you so much for what you do.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, well, okay, that's our new hashtag then. We'll put hashtag comfort.
Yeah.
Hashtag ICF comfort. So thank you guys. I appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate Paul and his time. We've continued to just take everybody's feedback and what they want. We're going to jam as many of these things out as we can to get more information out here about the industry and let people make those decisions. I encourage you to go to our show notes. I will put links to Allegaurd and Amvic's websites. You could even, if you go in and look up your contacts, I'm sure you could track Paul down in his email if you have any questions for him. But we also will put the links to their Instagrams and different social medias on Instagrams. I sound like an old man now.
Mm-hmm.
To the
That cough medicine.
to the gram, to the Instagram. Yeah, I'm on a lot of meds right now, but we will put all the links in there and stuff. But do your research and go out and look. You guys have a great YouTube channel. You guys have a lot of information out there on your website, and get out to those shows. Get to World of Concrete. Get to the Builder Show. Get to your local shows and get the information right from the guys like Paul, because there's a lot of guys out there with wealth of information that's going to help you make that decision. So please take the time to do that.
Meantime, keep sending us your questions. Info
100%.
at buildwithicf.com
100%.
or all of our socials at buildwithicf.
All right, Paul. Thank you very much. And until the next time we bring you on.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You too.